Hello, hello, beloveds. This message is for a very specific group of beings, and so as you listen to this, you will probably feel a sense within of whether this is for you or not. And I encourage, as always, that you align into that and learn how to listen to that and to learn that how to kind of get that discernment of this is for me, this is not for me. And it not being for me has nothing to do with any judgment of good or bad about this message or yourself. It's just about alignment. And we are increasingly requiring a more robust capacity for being able to discern what is in purest alignment with your resonance. And as much as we have been focused for some time, and many will continue to focus on developing the capacity to elevate your own resonance. So the both and of those, of course, but this kind of discernment piece is very important. I'll speak about that a little bit later. But I wanted to just simply make clear from the beginning that this is not a message for everyone, and that this message be guided to those who would have their highest good benefited from it is an intention already in place and a reality already existing. So I am recording this in the beginning of October. I don't even know the day. Yes, October 3rd. Sorry, I had to look that up. I'm recording this on October 3rd, and I want to first address recent days, because there have been in recent days some very interesting experiences that you've been having, and I want to address those for you. But then we're going to shift into coming days and what's coming, and we'll spend more time there. But it's important for some of you to have useful information or mental models to support some of the experiences that you've been having. And my own human also has been having some of these, which I know for some of you can be useful and supportive to your own nervous systems, to your brains, to your human neurobiology, to be aware that we're all on this ride together. And we are. So what's been happening is another wave, if you will, of things arising in order to be cleared, completed, transmuted, seen, and this cannot be done without them being seen and acknowledged. And this is happening on many levels. So this may be happening for you on a human level, about kind of your internal human experience, or like within your human lifetime. This may be happening within you related to kind of your cosmic self, so other lives as well, within your sphere of life. And it's also very much happening to the planet, for the planet, in the planet, in her own journey as well. And then, of course, for the collective, for humanity, so sort of the majority, the kind of the group energetics of, if you will, of the human species at this time. And so this kind of opportunity to experience what you have already experienced, but in a new way, is here for you. It's a revisiting that is here for you. And you've been having this experience, and you may have been having some very sudden, abrupt, significant biology impacts from that experience. Now, first I want to talk to those of you who, like me, have been helping to process these revisitings and creating the new experience for the planet and for the collective. This is, in my awareness, my received wisdom at this time, the most important of this last few days. And on the human playing field for the individual, you will probably find that the experiences are essentially kind of mirrors or echoes of these themes. So I probably won't spend a lot of time on the individual. We'll see what comes through. So on the planetary level and on the collective level, there is a particular theme of what wants to be revisited, what wants to be re-experienced, and that is being driven by the deep sacred current of life force, by the sacred feminine. And it is about the sacred feminine, about the current of life force, that everything that's kind of coming up for the planet and for humanity is really about the words that will be useful. So on the one hand, there's a rage experience that is occurring around the disemboweling of the earth and the kind of penetrative actions made in violence against the feminine in both humanity's form and the earth's form. And these penetrative violent acts have occurred within what is, whether it's the planet or the human, within those aspects of form of those beings where kind of the sacred feminine magic is held. And so these violent acts have been driven by a seeking to steal and to understand and take for one's own benefit. The taker is the energy that is taking, is attempting to both understand and to take. And there's a rage that energy feels, because while it has been somewhat effective at being able to take and co-opt, it has never been effective at taking and understanding and unlocking that sacred feminine magic, if you will, for itself. And so the rage that many are experiencing, that is showing up in the physical body as you're processing this rage, and you may have I've had no experience directly as I've been doing this work in these last few days for the planet, of myself, of my human experiencing rage. Like that, that's all shadow work I've done. I'm done with that in my human and in my cosmic self both. So I'm in a complete neutrality, and these are who I'm giving this particular aspect of this message to. We are in a complete neutrality in our experience of this energetic kind of. We're basically like a giant Brita filter, right? Where we're just kind of taking in this rage and seeing it and allowing it to do what it needs to do and to move through us and to be transmuted in service or removed in service to the planet's work that she is doing, to her evolutionary shifting and creating an expression of that deep sacred current of life force in her form. And so those of us who've been doing this work and feeling biological impacts, physical body impacts, as we've been going through, some of you may have found this puzzling, because you have both this physical pain or deep discomfort in some place in your body as you've been dealing with this, at the same time as the rest of your being, all aspects of your being, feel calm and lovely and connected and joyful and blissful, and like all the wonderful things are occurring, and you're sort of, you're here for all of it. And so there's this dissonance that's like, woo, and that can be just sort of a little wobbly making. And it's really a function of ultimately that we don't need to understand any of this in order to do this work, and that we don't need to kind of have those mental models. And also, kind of a note to others is that you don't need to be kind of the old school, early stage empath that feels the pain that you are transmuting. When you shift and upgrade in your capacities internally around your open, porous, empathic capacities, then you are able to provide alchemy or transmutation or catalytic healing supports. You are not the healer. The being heals itself. But you can provide radical support to help the being, whichever being you're interacting with, kind of slingshot in its healing. So I'm going to come back to that later, because that's an important topic that's coming up through this piece. Okay, but so those of us who've been doing this work, we may have been feeling very significant pains, and if you are physically or energetically identify largely as a woman in your human form, then you may have been feeling this way down. And even if you just are a holder of deep feminine energy in a male form, like I actually am going to take that back. As I said it, I was like, no, that's not right. It's the feminine within. If you have connection to the feminine within you and the feminine that moves through you and animates all of life, then you may have been feeling pain in your lower abdomen in various ways, or biological symptoms that you would associate with other kinds of like mundane world medical conditions that may have just sort of out of the blue, like boop, here this is. And you may have had that experience of those pains before, so it's like a return, emphasis on kind of the part of this, like that there's a revisiting going on, but it's not that old thing. And you know that it's not that old thing. You're like, I don't know why is this happening, but it's not that. It's just, it feels similar, but it's not the same. And so you may have had different, and you may associate these physical pains that you may have been experiencing with different aspects of your anatomy, and it doesn't matter. But there could still be, but I think this is much of this work is being done, and I thank you for it, because you've been doing it already as I record this. So I'm really mostly giving you kind of a like after the game kind of reporting on what happened during the game, right? I feel like into that kind of after game report on the sports channel a little bit, but also to help you kind of with this may come up again, and you'll have an opportunity for a different experience when it does, as always. And so the energies have been very much about kind of disembowelment, and also kind of like going into, I'm going to be very graphic for a moment, and so let me pause for a moment and say, if you're still listening to this and you still feel aligned purely to this message and where it's going, and you have had dramatic trauma in your human life that's related to things like rape and whatnot, and you have not worked with that yet and done that work, then I encourage you to just kind of like put this on a fast forward and just kind of zip through this little part, or you just just kind of zip ahead a few minutes if you want, because we're going to have to speak briefly on use some graphic concepts. So this is an energy of physically carving open a female body and looking to take out or examine or understand the womb and all of the sex organs related to creating life, and also related to disembowelment in the way that it has been used in history, in mankind's history, related to creating discipline and fear and authority in religious environments, and sort of disembowelment used as a punishment for kind of so-called heresy as well, and a burning of the magical beings, right? We can think of this as burning, at the stake for witchcraft, but there have been many times and, epochs, if you will, where witches wasn't the word that was used. It doesn't matter. It was the punishment and also the deep invasive inquiry and desiring to seek and take, and then the theft of deep sacred feminine magic. And this has been perpetuated violently against the planet many, many, many times, in many ways, on many levels, and the humans. Many, many. And many of you have had many lifetimes, where this has been your experience. And on the physical level, we can think of, the way in which mankind has, consistently in recent millennia just been very extractive in its relationship to the earth, and just sort of we take, we don't ask permission, we don't work in partnership, etc. So there's a big rage around this, that many waves of which have come through previously and been worked with, and there's just been another really big wave of it that's been coming through, and you've been working with this, and you've been essentially kind of helping. Earth has been working with her own rage and pushing it and like doing her work with it, and then you've been helping her to conduit that rage back out and alchemize it back out, to remove it from her own field, if you will. And you've also been helping with humanity to do that, to remove it from the field. And and this is particularly true for you if you have felt in the neutrality place that I described earlier, where you still feel like all is well and you're in complete sort of trust and knowing and feeling super wonderful about kind of all the things in your mind, if you will, and in your heart, but your body is so impacted in a way that that it's potentially even kind of slowed you down or stopped you or interfered with your usual way of experiencing that kind of joyful connectedness. But if you've maintained that sense of neutrality, or if this just feels correct to you, that it's like, it's not yours, right? This isn't, you're doing this work in service to the all, and in service to the planet, and in service to humanity. Now, many of you also still are doing work. We could call it shadow work, whatever you want to call it. I don't care about the words. It doesn't matter. But doing work, looking at your own experiences, whether they're in this human lifetime or in other lives, in your cosmic self's lives, where you've had these kinds of experiences of violent violation and extractive violation and extractive violence in various ways. And I want you to understand that these kinds of things can happen energetically, not just physically, as we're used to thinking of them, as I described, in terms of, physically taking from the earth, or physical rape of a human by another human. These can happen energetically. These can happen, in the quantum, if you will, in the kind of in the higher dimensions, if you will. And so you may have some work to do around this. Now, you can do that work in many different ways, and that's not what this transmission is about. But I encourage you, if you feel to address this, to find ways to address it. Okay, there are many. And in the meantime, continue to support your nervous system and your biology and your brain and your spirit, and to tend how they work together, and to remember to focus as much of your attention as possible on that which delights you and that which lights you up, so that you expand that, because where your attention goes is what will expand. And so that doesn't mean that you turn away from, in a denial of whatever is causing this beautiful rage to come up. You see it, and then as you see it, you're kind of working with it in various different ways. So I do want to say one thing about this, in terms of working with it. One, if you're feeling an enormous amount of rage inside your being now, like I'm feeling this rage, right? Even if it's like, it's kind of an inchoate rage that I can't connect to anything specific, but I can't figure out what to do with it. You can try to just release it from your body through physical body movements. You can sort of see how that feels, like, get a really angry song on and dance it out, or, beat up a mattress with a frying pan, or scream and yell. It's going to need to be a very embodied movement, whatever you do, an embodied process, whatever you do to move this out, if you're feeling that and you're trying that out. But what may be happening, and that may not work, because what may be happening is actually that sacred feminine, she wants you to have more aware experience and access to her within yourself, within your own being, within your experience. And so she may be kind of forcing up this anger within you, accelerating this anger within you, this rage within you, because it is a portal into being in more direct connection with her. Now, it sounds a little bit transactional as I describe that, right? It sounds a little bit like, oh, so now I'm going to use my anger to connect more to the feminine. This is a very tricky thing to do, and I want you to be very attentive to the highest kind of integrity of this idea, the highest kind of almost an ethics that it feels like to me, around this idea that to do it transactionally will not succeed, but to do it from a place of seeking to more directly, purely be in alignment with and flow with that deep sacred current of life force as it seeks to move and flow and bend and grow and evolve and change and create and make as it does. And so if you're coming at it from that perspective, the rage may be in deep service to a greater connection than you have ever known before. Everyone's process will be different in terms of time that is useful to stay in the rage, if you will. But I want you to pay very close attention to, am I allowing the rage to express within me and keep moving because it wants to move? Or am I going to keep it stuck in me, and I'm going to stew in it, and I'm just going to sit here and fucking marinate in it. Now, you may need to marinate in it, but understand or listen for when is it time to, kind of turn the stove off and take that stew off the stove because it has marinated and brewed long enough. And now it is time to move it to its next phase of its, of its path. So this is just really, so this also comes back to some of the pieces that I was talking about around the empath experience. So as this, So as this, because there's too many things coming in at once and I have to hear what is the correct order to bring them for you, to support those who are listening to this. Okay, before I come back to the empath piece, on the human level, in your own human day-to-day, these energies have been and will continue for a little bit of time here to encourage you to have a new experience or a new look at your relationships within yourself, your relationships with others, relationships to yourself, your relationship to others, how you relate and show up in the world, how you interact with others, what relationships are desiring to come in and what relationships are desiring to end and close out. And coming to that inquiry from a place of neutrality is extraordinarily valuable for you. To be able to come into that inquiry from a place of neutrality allows you to not be informed by past sort of traumas, if you will, the work hasn't yet been done. And so that's an important piece of it. If the neutrality piece doesn't feel fully available to you, that's okay. More fundamentally, you're seeking to discern the purest alignment to your resonance, wherever that is, and where you want it to be. Not just where it is now, but where you want it to be, that you know, that you feel it actually is. You just may not be holding kind of that note. It feels very like I'm feeling very much like singing and toning and vocal notes is feeling like the imagery here, the metaphor here. And so like, oh, I've just learned how to hit a perfect C. That's my perfect highest resonance that's currently available to me, but I can't really hold that note all the time. And sometimes when I, am singing out, oops, like I go a little sharp or a little flat or a little off key or out of pitch or whatever. And that's okay, but you know that perfect C is in you and you've experienced it. So that's what I'm talking about, that you want everything must align to that purest connection, that purest alignment with that. And so shifts can happen in various ways in those relationships as you're looking at them, and spend some time with that in various ways. I don't feel to bring too much on the human plane on this. I feel, yes, there's a lot of other work coming out and sharings coming out on the human interpersonal side of this for you. So that's useful. You'll find what's useful. It'll be given to you. Here, these energies want to stay in the more esoteric. So what I want you to, as you're thinking about this empath thing that I brought up, I want you to think about boundaries. Right? So there's a new clarity coming in for you around boundaries. As you become more skillful in the discernment around your resonance, you become more clear about what's in alignment and what isn't. This is essentially boundaries at a higher level than we talk about it kind of in the mundane world interpersonally, in terms of just sort of language that we say. If you've been working with me or you're familiar with my work for many years, I've been working with boundary work in many ways. Here, if you're interested in doing boundary work kind of at the human scale, at the kind of basic getting started level, I recommend the work of a woman named Sari Gilman, Sarigilman. Her book, Transform Your Boundaries, is a wonderful starting place for this on the human level. She does not work in this kind of this esoteric way, but that the way in which she works at that mundane level is completely aligned with how I do this. So this boundary skillfulness, what I want you to know is that this boundary skillfulness about the resonance, if you will, whether it's about who do I want to be around, where do I want to be, what experiences am I wanting to let in or not, and what's happening. This is actually vital to expanding your connectedness. And many women, when I'm working with them, I only work directly with highly gifted women, and these transmissions are not just for them. But when I'm working with them and they want to increase their kind of magical connectedness to the many beings that are around us that the human eye doesn't typically perceive, and they want more of that magic connectedness to other dimensions. They want more of that magic connectedness to their cosmic self, and they are also empaths. They often make the mistake of feeling like, well, I'm an empath and I can't have these other connections, so therefore that's just not available to me. And no, nothing could be more further from the truth. It's that the empath experience is like a precursor experience that is setting you up for, okay, we're going to be able to have a whole bunch of connectedness, but in order to get there, we must do this foundational work around the boundary work, because there is zero need or requirement for you to take on the feelings and pains and experiences of others in order to be in service to them or to the world or to others. Zero need. It's absolutely unnecessary. And sometimes people who are kind of in the early stages of this work, they're so attached to their identity as an empath that they can't let that go and understand that, look, this is really just like the kindergarten playground version of what's available to you. If you can kind of come into more neutrality around that aspect of identity, if you will, and open to the way in which this is an opportunity for you to kind of move up in your experience to more of what you want, and to be more, if you will, kind of in charge of that experience. Maybe more at cause instead of at effect to it, where you're just sort of, I can't walk into a grocery store because I'm feeling everybody's pain. I can't function today because I'm feeling everybody's pain. I'm not saying put a big giant Faraday cage around yourself energetically. In most circumstances, that's not useful. It is useful to have the capacity to do that, though, in certain settings. Absolutely. So boundary skillfulness, this is the thing I want you to take away on this little piece, is that boundary skillfulness is vital to expanding your connectedness. You cannot expand your connectedness without expanding your boundary craft. And yeah, okay, this is a both and piece, if you will. And you're not here in this human life to have a merging experience in which your whole self disappears. Yes, that experience for your spirit, for yourself, for your cosmic self is available. And if your being wanted to return to the all, wanted to return to source, to divinity, wanted to have that merging experience in which your own self disappeared, it would do that. It would just leave here and go do that. So you're not here to lose yourself in another or in everybody or everything. You're not here to seek that dissolution of self. You're here to remove the giant fucking barnacle bullshit craziness that has been placed on top of your true self, and to connect, to remember and uncover your true self. And this is where we kind of transition into the final and most fun to me topic of what's going on, is to start talking about what's happening now and what's going to be happening, because the access, if you will, to that true self is expanding rapidly. And the acceleration is intense. The acceleration is glorious, but intense. And sometimes people think of intense as a bad thing. Sometimes people think of it as a good thing, whatever. But it's intense. There's a huge acceleration of energies that have been happening, but it's just going to ramp up even more. And the little, like, I have this image of the starship of you, right? This little beautiful starship that is you, and you're in this beautiful kind of golden, energetic starship your being is, that you're just kind of moving through all of your experiences in. And what's going on now with these energies is that it's like huge big waves are coming in, and they're huge waves, huge current coming in, and these are delightful and inspiring and exciting and exhilarating and amazing. And you will not be given waves too big for you. You will not be given a current too wild and rough for you. But with these accelerations in this, particularly at this time in your journey, it is necessary for you to step into aligned action. This is not a let the current carry me where it will moment. This is I'm going to surf in my beautiful little golden starship of me. I'm going to surf these waves with them. I'm going to play in active creation with this ocean of energy that is bringing these waves in, that are sentient waves that are saying, hello, beautiful being, come ride me now. And you have to decide, yes, I want to ride with you now, but it means I have to take action. I have to actually paddle on my beautiful golden starship surfboard, my beautiful golden starship surfboard, imagery here. I have to actually actively be paddling along as well. And in your day-to-day, in the physical, whatever you're doing to bring things in, that aligned action is what must be done. And I will speak in a moment about aligned action and what that actually is, because your brain may often assign, aligned action is just, I'm working on the business things that I need to do, or the logistical or tactical things that I need to do, and those may be it. But aligned action may have no brain logic, no mind, no logical, rational connection between kind of what's coming, what you're bringing into form, what's already in form, and you're just kind of pulling that, into the now for yourself, because you already have that resonance. That the action may be just a sort of completely, apparently appearing to be unrelated entirely to what your brain is screaming at you. No, we have to do these, XYZ things. We have to do these, put all the little different Lego blocks together one by one by one by one by one by one. And actually, no, if I just, instead of the Lego blocks, I just grab this other toy over here that seems unrelated to this beautiful castle I'm trying to build with the Lego blocks, then suddenly when I turn back to the Lego blocks, the castle is already built. So this is the beautiful kind of magical creating capacity that is coming rapidly available to us when we choose it. And choosing it means, okay, I'm going to actively engage with this beautiful wave that wants me to paddle with it, because otherwise the wave will keep moving and I'll just sort of stay behind. And you can kind of imagine the wave is moving and you have to paddle to stay up with it. And you can, absolutely. You won't be given a wave you can't keep up with. You won't. I promise you. And if you don't, there is like a little bit of I gotta do it now. Don't let perfectionism, don't let your mind, don't let your brain, don't let your nervous system be in charge of whether or not you take that aligned action. Whether or not you hear, discern, know. And you just have an inner knowing. It's just an immediate knowing. You already know it. As I've been talking, it's come into your mind. I got to go do this thing more, or I got to do this thing, whatever it is. And it will keep coming into your mind if you allow it to. And you just let your cosmic self essentially direct you. And you're just kind of going with that. Now, the waves, there's going to be more and more of these waves coming in, and there'll be several of them. I feel like maybe 7, but certainly at least 5 throughout this current month. But I want to also say that the way in which these energetics are feeling, while they're new to us right now as I'm speaking about them in my timeline, this is the way it's going to be in many ways ongoing, and it will be useful to you to get used to it, if you will, to figure it out, right? To learn how to do this. And this kind of guidance, if you will have a usefulness outside of the time frame in which I'm speaking right now. So the waves, so the energy, the imagery that's coming in is imagery like a slingshot, just like a little kid taking a rubber band, literally, with a little tiny pebble in it, okay? And so imagine that your cosmic self has this beautiful rubber band and is pulling the little pebble back, and the rubber band is getting more and more tense, right? As you're more and more taut as you're pulling it back. And you can feel that, the building, the anticipation, the ooh la la la, yippee yippee yippee, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. Because the release of that pebble is going to be like a rocket fuel boost, like a big turbo boost to your beautiful little golden starship of you, okay? That's the wave. That's going to make the wave be so big and fast and beautiful. And so that pulling back, that kind of anticipatory glee, you want to be in that super delightful, delighted, childlike, kind of innocent but playful, but also super wise from your experience and your connection, right? It's the both and. Get into it. Woohoo, let's go. Buckle up. And, for many of us, will be very excited for what will be easy to bring into form this month for the first time in a while for some, because for some it's been hard to do that because things have been moving too fast. And even though I'm talking about things are going to move faster, but they're going to move faster in a particular way. So we'll have these kind of points that are sort of set up along the way as we go, where it's okay, a new little rubber band slingshot. Okay, we're pulling back, and you can feel the rhythm. This is where knowing your rhythms and being able to discern the rhythms at the energetic and esoteric level for yourself is so, so powerful. And it starts with learning just, your basic human rhythms in just your human life. But then you can build on that to learn and feel into, ooh, I feel that kind of, oh, the rubber band's pulling back, the rubber band's pulling back. Oh, I like the feeling. I'm getting ready. Here it comes. I'm geared up. I'm doing the aligned action that's going to support when that slingshot comes, that turbo boost to my little beautiful golden rocket ship comes. I'm ready to grab it and soar with it, right? And there's going to be a bunch of these that will just kind of boom, 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 they feel kind of like pearls on a necklace suddenly, right? Each one of them coming on as we go. And very beautiful. And So this is going to be super fun. And yes, there will be much about this related to what is it that you're here to bring into form, and particularly for those of you who are here to bring things into form in support of this evolutionary journey of the planet and also of humanity. And so you have a sense already as you're listening to this, like, yeah, I'm one of those. And I haven't known or been clear about what I'm doing, or I have known and I've been super clear about what I'm doing, but I have felt the emergence of a new phase that I don't have yet a clear kind of mental model about. This will start coming. Okay? It's going to start coming in. It's going to start coming in fast. Just get ready to kind of like just rock and roll. Now, I'm not talking about grind. I'm not talking about hustle. Like, all that is just ancient, gone, 3D. If you're still doing that stuff and you've been listening to me, like, no, just stop. Not helpful. If you can't stop that, then get help around that. Okay? Get help, because in the 3D, in kind of the human collective, if you will, in the mainstream society, it's going to be hard. All right? There's going to be very difficult experiences for many. And if you want to help with that, then this is one of the best ways I feel you can do that help, is to get yourself capacitated to be of help. Drowning with someone who's drowning doesn't help them not drown. And again, no one is here to save anyone else. And if you're stuck in a mental model that you're here to save others, you're here to save yourself. So do that first, okay? Then yes, be a light, but be a light for the sake of the light. You're transmitting the light, you're transmitting the signal for its own beauty. And the impact on others is, of course, wonderful as well, but as a support, if that makes sense, for others to choose whether or not they want to open their eyes to that light or not, whether they want to bathe in that light and, have something useful or activating occur from it, is up to them. All right? Nobody is a savior. We must remove that energetic thread from our way of thinking about things. The deepest level of what's going on, and particularly around some of the earlier kind of biological impacts that I mentioned at the beginning of this, these biological impacts are related as we are kind of essentially just being processors, like filters, of that deep feminine rage. As that's kind of moving through, it's also having kind of like a clearing effect within our own biologies, if you will, right? Like a big giant kind of detox almost, that then is making way for more of those beautiful founder codes and more integration and awake awareness within your human, of your cosmic self and your multidimensional, pan-dimensional capacities and experiences and nature to come and be in your embodied human experience, which is really that journey towards Homo lumens in the evolutionary leap of the species underway now, but also, and which is also part of this, also this specific thing that's going on now and throughout the end of this year, there's just this huge opportunity for a way bigger wave of beings to begin to access original self and the kind of the codes, if you will, of original self, and for original self to come in and integrate more fully into the human biology, so that there's a union of a trinity of human, original, and cosmic self, and that access to the original self really only came available earlier in this year, 2021, starting with the availability of the founder codes as kind of the energetic resonances of the planet herself shifted enough to allow them in, if you will, back in, I should say, because they were here before, and so this connection into the inner evolutionary journey, that's really where things just get super joyful. And it is also the place of creating, in a brand new way, both for your own experience and for whatever impact or kind of legacy that you're wanting to have here in the world. And really all of the things that we've been doing up until now have all been just a jumping off point to get to that, to get into the current and the stream and the flow of that evolutionary leap. This is very beautiful. The last thing that I want to say is for anyone that is still having physical, biological kind of challenges related to these recent energies, there is this beautiful energy that wants to be shared with you now, which is a diamond light bubble. I know we don't think of diamonds and bubbles going together, but if you can just sort of relax into this idea, the diamond light bubble energy is this tiny little effervescent, tiny little bubbles that are wanting to work their way into your actual biology and create a soothing, healing, sort of like a energy balm, but in a very like a light, bubbly way. Like if you've ever made a clay mask for your skin using bentonite clay mixed with apple cider vinegar, and the apple cider vinegar makes the bentonite clay kind of bubble, and if you put that right as you mix it onto your skin, you feel the bubbling happening on your skin. Feel like that's the energy that I'm feeling kind of moving through my biology as I'm talking about it again here, but also moving available for you. And it feels very much like it's coming in through the hands and through the wrists. It's kind of an entry point, but then filling into all of the body, and also very much also coming in through kind of the very lower abdominal area, pelvic area as well, and then kind of spreading out from there. And just really allow this incredible, just beautiful, high diamond effervescence to fill you up and to cleanse and to move out gently and easily and gracefully anything that has passed its expiration date. Out it goes. Okay? So this is just a lovely, lovely time for those of us who are ready for it to be that lovely time. And we're going to see these kinds of increasing accelerations of energy throughout the year, and I've been saying that all year, so some of you will already be like, yeah, where's the new news, Melanie? I hear you. And I'm just here to confirm. And really, the actions that you're taking, the things that are wanting to come into form now, they are really setting the stage for your 2022. And you can essentially pull a very delightful, beautiful 2022 that you already can inhabit, just pull that into you here now. And that just makes it super easy. Just like you're pulling a little rope, just sort of tugging on that little golden thread and bringing that right here, right now. Bringing the energy and the resonance of that beautiful experience that you've been having in your own awareness, because you have. I know you've been having that kind of like, oh, well, look, I'm briefly in 2022 and I was doing this thing and it was so cool and amazing. Like, yep, bring that in. Just reel that little baby right into you. Just pull that little line right in, that golden line right in. Pull it right into your being. Bring that resonance right here. All these things that we've been talking about here today, and just things just start happening. Just focus on where you want to focus. Put your attention where you want it to be. And remember to surf that wave. All right, darling. I love you, and I thank you for your beautiful light in the world, for your beautiful light in the all of all, for everything that you are. Whether you see it or not, it doesn't matter. I thank you for all of it. Goodbye.